You are in the rant chair, which is where for $5 I will rant about a topic of your choice. Click the link in the description to request a rant. This one comes from Majin DD, and he sent me a message asking, please rant about the XY game aged poorly argument and why it's a cheap way to criticize older games. I hope my response here doesn't disappoint you. Because it might not be what you expect. So I will say, I think I used to be that guy. I used to be that guy who would see people say this game has aged poorly and would then hit back with, actually, did you know that games actually don't age? Games are actually static, right? Mario 64 is still the same game that it was 30 years ago. You just got older. You changed. And you feel really smarmy and cool when you say that type of shit, right? And it seems like it's accurate, and it sort of is, right? It literally is. My friend Pang wrote this article the other day. Well, the other day, no, it was longer ago. And he inflammatorily titled it Mario 64 Has Aged. And in there, he sort of lays down, okay, obviously this is a colloquialism, right? This is, when somebody says this game aged poorly, they're trying to casually and loosely explain a vague idea, a vague sense that, okay, the game design that is on display here and the implementation that is on display here has fallen out of favor. It's not fallen out of time, I guess. It's not common anymore. And now certain tropes and standards, quote unquote, exist that are more expected, right? And that, I guess there's sort of the implicit idea of, okay, they exist for a reason, right? Certain things were ironed out over time and we settle on them for a reason, right? Obviously that is, that's not necessarily true, right? That those things are necessarily better or whatever, right? But the point really is that if you're then drilling into them by breaking down the semantics of what they're saying, you're actually missing the point, right? You're getting hung up on the semantics that they're using, even though you actually do understand what they're saying, right? And by being like the pedantic asshole, you don't actually reach a consensus. You don't reach understanding. And it's not actually helping anybody, right? And there's a lot more in that article that is really worth reading, that you should just, I think what it taught me is, okay, I need to be comfortable with the idea that games will be perceived differently across time, across different situations, across different setups. Now I'm very married to the idea of like, I don't even want to say, okay, this is actually complicated. I don't actually really know what my own perspective is on this. Part of me wants to say that I am very like objective in my viewpoint of games, and like obviously I know that that's not this fucking paradoxical, right? Because it's my viewpoint. I definitely, I don't try to sort of curtail my gut reactions or my sort of game design instincts to cut a game slack, right? That's my intuitive sense is to not do that. My intuitive sense is to not say, okay, well, Panzer Dragoon Saga is old, so, and it's on the Sega Saturn, so I need to be impressed, or I need to appreciate the fact that they did like full 3D towns in this game, right? No, I don't need to appreciate that, right? And at the same time, I'm ignoring the fact that like sometimes I will do that subconsciously, right? I think I mean, I'm going through the GTA games right now for the first time, the PS2 trilogy, and I I I can't pin this down to exact observations or sensations, but I do get a subconscious sense of, okay, I'm being a little charitable, right? I'm I'm sort of seeing the design and appreciating the design in this abstract way, even if in practice it sometimes doesn't or often doesn't really come together into something that is super rich, right? Um, I think San Andreas especially is one where I'm like, okay, I don't really fuck with what this game is doing creatively very much. Um, but the fact it did it with such insane constraints, I find that sort of impressive, right? I find that sort of intellectually interesting, and um, that's weird, right? Like that that was a subconscious process, right? That was just intuitive my reaction, like, okay, it's kind of insane that they did that on PS2, right? Now, I feel like, I mean, I might write a review for the game, and I don't think uh I think just as much as my instinct is to appreciate the fact that they pulled that off in the PlayStation 2, I would also instinctually not actually factor it into my final assessment. I think my final assessment of the game will still be how much fun I had with it, how interesting and rich I thought it was. So I don't know, it's really complicated and fuzzy. Now, I will say to your, and maybe this will satisfy you a little more, Imagine. Um, I I do think, like, if you're the type of person who does say that, right? Like, oh, I can't. Oh, I wish I could enjoy Mario 64, but the clunkiness. I can't handle the clunkiness. Can't handle the camera. Ooh. Um, I think you're. What's the way to put that? That's not insulting. I don't know. I don't want to be insulting. I don't know what you mean. I definitely think you're not being very creative with how you approach games, and you're definitely being a little shallow, and you don't. It seems like you don't really have a very I guess rich understanding of what a good game could be, right? I guess you could call it a lack of intellectual curiosity. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Um, and I mean, it would see. I just can't imagine that the type of person who would say this has a very interesting framework for like analyzing games, right? It inherently kind of implies that you're um you're married sort of to convenience and intuition as primary game design principles, and that what you find intuitive is almost entirely rooted in the current market of games, right? I think that is the implication, and that's why fucking sweaty nerds like me are have such a toxic reaction to that type of rhetoric, because that's what you sense, right? You sense, okay, this person is like very married to um just whatever is smooth, whatever is intuitive, and probably doesn't play a lot of old games. And then you can sort of imagine the rest of their opinions from there. And obviously, that's not really fair, right? That's a little mean, but I can understand it.